I hope you're well out there today and staying safe. And this week, it's not so much a project that I'm going to do, it's more a test. And it's going to be something like a pot melt, only we're not going to be using a pot. Now, let's just show you this little thing here, or long, ugly looking thing. It's a grate that I took off of an old gas heater that I was dismantling, ready to chuck out. And I usually dismantle things just to see what's in them. And this would have to be stainless steel or a very high temperature wire. So I think it's going to survive basically in the kiln with me putting some glass on it. Anyway, we're going to find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to support this in a kiln. I'm going to clean it up first, then load it up with glass and we'll melt it. I have my doubts that it's going to go well, and I'll tell you why. Some time ago I had a colander that came out of a slow cooker, or actually no, it was a steamer I think, and it was made of stainless steel and it had holes in the bottom of it, and those holes were, I think from memory, about 10 mils in diameter. And I tried doing something like this with that, in that I filled it with glass and tried to do something like a pot melt. It didn't go so well, because when I looked at it, yeah, sure, it melted through, sort of, but the glass seemed to get hung up a lot, and then as it cooled down, I think what happened is the metal contracted more than the glass, built up some pressure, and what it ended up doing was spraying little bits of glass all over my kiln. Fortunately, they were not molten, so it happened in the cooling stage. And I'd say at the very end of the cooling stage. But it was a disaster. And I suspect this is going to be similar. These small holes, which are probably no more than about 5, 6, 7 mils in square, are pretty small. And glass is quite viscous, so getting it to flow through that it means I'm going to probably have to take it to a really high temperature and for quite a while. But I'm expecting what's going to happen is something similar. As it cools, what glass is left on here is going to be shot off as the wire, I should say, cools down. So I may end up with little shards of glass in my kiln again. But I'm really interested to see what happens, and I'm really interested to see whether this wire will do that. I'm only going to do a very small piece. So I'm just going to put this in the kiln and just dam it up underneath and support it and just load it up with some scrap glass. And we'll just see what happens. Now, if you haven't been on my channel before, just to let you know that the glass I use is all Bullseye 90 COE. And when I fuse this on the kiln, I'll be using thin fire paper underneath and lining the dams with probably a little bit of fibre paper or thin fire paper. Stay safe and make sure you wear your safety glasses and wear a mask when necessary. Don't forget, if you've got any questions at all, put them in the comment section below and I will try and answer them for you. If you like the video, hit that like button for me. I'd appreciate that, and share the video around. If you want to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and down the bottom there's a little thanks button that you can use to help support the channel. And a big thanks to everybody that has used that thanks button down below. Believe me, that is all going to help that fund for that new tile saw. So I'll get on now. I'll go and clean this up as best I can. And then we'll get some scrap glass. I'll set it all up on the kiln and get some scrap glass, load it up, and so we can get it all into the kiln and get going. Just something you're probably wondering about this gas heater. It was quite a large gas heater, and this was the grate across the front of all the elements. So when I say large, as you can guess, let's get this bit here. That's how wide it was. So now I've cut that in half, that piece, because it just simply won't fit in my kiln. And I don't think I'll ever make anything sort of bigger than that if this works. So, and down the bottom down here, I've got some thin fire on the shelf. I've dammed it up. I've got previously fired fibre paper on the sides. I'm going to try and make a piece about 12 mils thick. So I've done my calculation for the glass. So that's 10 centimetres by 10 and 1.2 thick. So that's 120 cubic centimetres of glass. And at 2.5 grams per cubic centimetre, that's about 300 grams of glass. Now the colours I'm going to use are just clear, vanilla, which is 0137, and deep royal blue, which is 1114. I've got equal quantities of each. I'm going to try and stack them there in that little small space. And we'll see how we go. If I can't fit it all, I can't fit it all. We'll just put on what we can. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that now. So I finished stacking it. I didn't video me laying it all up because it just took a while. I did a little bit of stopping and starting, trying to work out how to stack it so it stayed stable. But it's done, and I think it's a recipe for disaster. And why I think that is that I have a horrible feeling that the glass is going to melt, spread out before it starts dripping through the mesh, and it may spread out and get onto the kiln pieces on the side. But anyway, got to try these things, haven't we? It's only a bit of scrap glass, he says. But anyway, look, I'll get this in the kiln. We'll put it on a very high full fuse and hold it there, and I'll keep a good eye on it, and we'll see what happens. Right, it's all been fused up. Took a long time because the schedule had to be long to get it to happen. If you have a look at it, you'll see I went up to, I think it was 920 degrees for quite a while. And then, of course, the annealing cycle was quite extensive as well. Now, if you have a look at it, you can see what's happened. There are little shards of glass around on the shelf, very little, but some of it to go into the kiln, but it's really easy to clean up. But when you look at the dams and everything here, there's still glass trapped in the mesh, and unfortunately it has spread out to the sides, and it's come out onto the dam pieces here. Silly me, I should have put kiln fire paper on those because I sort of suspected that was going to happen, but I didn't put any kiln fire paper on. I think most of the glass has gone through from what I can see. I haven't actually taken this off yet. I'm going to take it off now. But to do that, I'm going to spray it all with water, which is what I would normally do. And not as a stream, but as a spray. And just to sort of settle everything. I'm spraying it, of course, that pre-fired kiln paper that I've got there. Or pre-fired fibre paper, I should say. We'll ruin that, but that's all right. It's been used once already. Okay, let's see what happens. See if it comes off. Oh, look at that. Lift it off easy. See, there's quite a bit of glass left on that. So if I wanted to clean that, I have to put it in a kiln again and fire it so it will try and get it out. One of the things I could try is flexing it, but I won't do that just now. Well, actually, that looks fantastic. Don't like this, but the actual piece looks fantastic. I really like that. I'll get it all out and we'll have a closer look. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, the kiln shelves cleaned up reasonably well. Most of the stuck-on glass come off. A few little taps, it just broke away. Unfortunately, took a little bits of the kiln shelf with it as well. But I think I'm going to have to grind that off. That'll teach me not to think about it a little bit harder and to actually protect those. The grate cleaned up really well. Basically, I took it outside on a cement slab, covered it with newspaper and whacked it with a hammer. Whacked it quite a few times with a hammer and all of the glass just broke off. So I could reuse that now without a problem. And the piece, I'm going to handle it very carefully here because it's got some nice sharp edges. These are bits that have come off of it and another bit there. I'll get it up as close as I can and keep it in focus, and if you can see that, and you probably can't in the video, but it's quite amazing actually. There's a lot of detail. I think that's come about because of the small grid, the small mesh size I should say, but it's absolutely amazing. Even the back of it is not bad. I'll just wet that. There's a nice pattern there. It's also interesting in the patterns on it and that. It's got a bit of a radiating pattern as the glass pushed out. But I think once I've cleaned this all up, and I'm going to be grinding the edges along here all around, take all this off and the bottom, basically turn it into a nice square piece. And then I'm going to slice it, or at least I think I am, because I had a project in mind for the next video. And I was going to slice this up and use it in that. I haven't actually convinced myself of that yet because it looks so nice that way. I'm wondering whether I should use it as it is. It does have a bit of transparency. You can sort of see the light coming through it. It's a bit hard to see. But it does have some transparency. That's the clear glass and the transparent blue that have worked well. And as you can see, there's no reaction between the vanilla and the blue, because that blue doesn't have any, lead in it, I think, for it to react. But I'm very happy with that. I think it's turned out really nice. So, keep watching future videos, and hopefully I'll be doing a piece using this one way or the other, and it might even be the next video. Don't forget you've got a couple of suggested videos up in the corners up there, the subscribe button right in the middle, and until the next video I'll say bye for now.